Hello everyone, Russ of Aquarimax here, what may be the most arid tolerant isopods in the hobby. This is a strain of Porcellio laevis from the Sonoran Desert in Arizona. I collected a small group of these, mostly juveniles, back in July of 2023 on my Sky Island adventures for that year, and I wanted to upgrade their enclosure because they're breeding, and I want them to have more space to be able to really get going as a colony. And here are some of them that I collected. Definitely they're breeding. You can see some younger ones. The juveniles I collected were probably close in size to those, many of them. And there were a couple of adults, I think. Not very many. And so it has taken a while for the colony to really take off, but obviously breeding, sometimes it takes a little while for wild cots to acclimate and start breeding more, but I'm not too worried. I've talked to Jesse and Peter about these. They collected some as well from somewhere near where I got these. I don't know exactly where, but they are the desert-adapted Sonoran Desert ones too. And they said they're doing great and they have all kinds of them. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to upgrade the enclosure. I think the enclosure, I had them in, kind of holding them back. I noticed when I was collecting these that a lot of them have full marsupiae, so it shouldn't be long at all. They should really take off. I think I showed this in the first video when I kind of showcased this species. You can see two specimens right there have one white antenna. Now they're covering them up. You can see this larger individual here right in the center of the screen has one white antenna and one of the natural gray. And I just saw another individual. There it is. If I can focus on it, the same trait. And I've seen a few other markings on some of these individuals that indicate this lighter coloration on certain parts of their body. Nothing like a true piebald or anything, but it's interesting and kind of fun. So I'll see if that trait manifests itself a little bit more. And this is the upgrade enclosure that I've chosen for them. The substrate will be a little bit deeper. Well, I will have a moist area because all isopods need them. I believe it was Oren McMonigal who said something like these were some of the most aridity tolerant arthropods, not just isopods, but arthropods that he had worked with. So, and that's paraphrasing, of course, but something along those lines. So I want to make sure that they don't lose that trait. If I keep them in an environment where they never have to worry about moisture at all, they may, over many generations, begin to lose the adaptations they have. And I don't know how long that would take. It might take hundreds of generations. It might only take a few. So I'm going to keep much of the enclosure bone dry and make sure this doesn't dry out, but I'm not going to keep it like sodden either. So we will see how this works out, but I think this is a good enclosure because it has lots of ventilation, not only on the sides but up at the top, so there's cross ventilation, top ventilation. And this was sent to me by microvarium.com. I think it'll be a great option for these because it will allow for a lot of air exchange, and the top layers of the substrate dry out, they'll have to burrow. I noticed, and I have noticed more than once, that these tend to hang out on the dry side just burrowed, and that's probably one of their major adaptations, is by burrowing down into the substrate they can find a little bit of moisture, but even when the moisture is fairly sparse, they can create a little microclimate in that little area they've created. So they seem to be more fossorial than some of their isopods. So let's get them moved into their new place. So this enclosure was sent to me by microvarium.com, which I think I may have mentioned. I like it for a lot of reasons, but actually I wanted to talk about a few things. I love this feeding and watering port right on the side. It's magnetically sealed and also has a spring on it. A couple things I don't like. One of the things that I don't like so much for a lot of isopods is that it's very well ventilated on the sides and on the top, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you can't keep up with the hydration station staying moist, it can be a problem for many isopod species. So it'll be a great fit for these very aridity tolerant ones. Another thing that I don't like too much is these little triangular holes here. They're intended to be used with a little kind of a bolt, a triangular plastic bolt to keep the enclosure closed. Now, with some animals, this could be a problem because the bolts tend to fall out and get lost and things like that. As you can see, I don't have any of them in it anymore, but With isopods, it's not a big deal because they're not going to be able to push out. But with an animal like maybe a tarantula, they might be able to push out if the bolts aren't in there. And so that's something I don't really like a lot about the enclosure, but otherwise, I think it's a great enclosure. And it's going to be perfect for these isopods, I think. So without further ado, let's move these Porcellio laevis from the Sonoran Desert into this mini Sonoran Desert, so to speak. Put a little piece of dog food in there and get them all tapped out. They tend to stick to surfaces when they're disturbed a lot more than some other isopods. Many do it, but these tend to do it rather tenaciously. And these really don't want to come out. I'm going to use a paintbrush to get these out. Don't want to hurt them. There they go. That should be fine. Thanks for watching today. I post videos every Friday with live streams on Wednesdays, all on aquarium and vivarium pets, with lots of isopod content. Please feel free to share, rate, comment, and if you haven't already,
subscribe.
And then tap the bell for all notifications so you don't miss my next video.